So that's the levels of organization. For any of that cell or a person, right, they all do these basic life processes in order to be kind of considered alive. Right? We kind of demarcate these activities, which any living organism do, everything from an amoeba to a human, right? That's why viruses and stuff are not considered living things because they don't do all these things, right? They just hijack your cell's machinery to have them do it for them. Right? But anything from an amoeba, any type of bacteria or something like that is going to do all these processes, right? It's going to metabolize stuff, right? Do all the cellular activity. It's going to respond to the environment or a condition in some way. It's going to move or create movement across the cell membrane in some way. It's going to grow to some extent. It's going to change. And it's going to, if it's going to survive and pass on, it's going to reproduce itself, right? So these are basic life processes carried out by a cell, as well as by all the organ systems in your body, right? So when you think of what's going on in your body, what's doing all the work, what's the functional unit, right? It's that cell, right? That's doing it. So let's look at it from a cell's perspective for a second, all these basic life properties. So again, when you're going over in your lecture slides, you won't see things like amoeba. You'll see red dots here because I don't want you to print, all these slides here, but this is just another demonstration thing to help you, give you a little context here. All right, so here's an amoeba sitting in a pond somewhere. And in order for it to carry out all its stuff, it needs energy, right? So it needs to bring in oxygen, right? Here it needs to bring in glucose, and it needs to get rid of its CO2 that's produced and all the waste, right? So metabolism is going on inside the cell. It's got to respond, like if it sees a little thing it wants to eat, it's got to be able to detect it and respond to it by moving in some sort, right? It's going to grow, either parts of it are going to grow, or it's going to grow most likely, and you as a whole are going to grow. It may or may not differentiate in certain cycles, and it's going to divide by itself and kind of split off into two, right? So that's an amoeba in a pond. Very easy to understand, right? The same thing, right? And this is a basic point that you know in some sense, but you always want to keep in mind for this course, that every single cell in your body has basic needs, right? They have basic functions and they got to carry out basic physiological properties, right? So your body, all your heart, your organs are made of tissues, which are made of cells, which have all these, they can carry out these things. And when they carry them out together in a tissue, they, perform certain functions, and the organ carried out by different tissues are going to perform, these major functions, right? So these are the individual cells that make up the tissues of some of your organs in your body, right? But this is where all that basic life processes could happen, right? So when you're thinking of in physiological as well as the anatomical thing, you want to kind of break it down into these individual cells, right? So for us, our multicellular monstrosity cells, right? We're going to take all those cells together and combine them to form particular types of functions, right? For the whole body, right? Not just for the cell, right? Because we're terrestrial land mammals under the force of gravity, we have this whole framework inside us, the skeletal system, right? Skeletal system, right? Which is going to provide the framework and allow movement of the body by these joints and appendices and stuff. It's also going to protect organs and stuff, right? So your skeletal system allows you as a whole organism to move around, and to actually make those movements, you're going to have muscles, right? Spanning from bone to bone, right? In the skeletal muscular system. This is why I don't take off points for spelling, because I'm really bad at it, right? So this is often combined together, right? These muscles are going to allow your whole body to move, as well as have some other types of functions, right? So your skeletal and your muscular system, right? And mind you, if you're an octopus, you don't need a skeletal system, right? This is for gravity and being in land, right? So it's not a necessary thing. It's necessary for us and any terrestrial animal, right? But everybody needs some kind of muscular system to help them to move. All right. So those are two systems. And how about some other ones? How are we going to get these muscles to move? Right. You are going to need a central nervous system, right? That's going to take in information. Right? It's going to detect things in the environment. And, you know, coming in, it's going to pick up by your eyeball. It's going to interpret them in your central processing unit. And then it's going to send out that information out to your muscles to make you move, or maybe internal nerves to kind of control your body processes, right? The other thing that's controlling your body process is your endocrine system. Right? That's something else we'll cover. And here, this is anatomically, this is kind of widespread. There's these little groups of cells here, which are going to secrete hormones into the blood to control your body's activities, right? So all those are stuff we're going to cover in this unit, right? So far, right, we have stuff. We're going to be able to detect the environment, right? With this eyeball here, we're going to have a skeletal kind of framework with limbs and stuff that move by these pistons, right? And, you know, in this case, this guy can do all that right here. He's got, you know, eyes and brains, and he's got a skeletal system and muscles and stuff, right? But what's different here is that this guy is made up of indestructible metal right over here, number one. Right? Number two, he's got a nuclear battery pack, right? And he's got wires going out to all these, so he doesn't need to take in any energy, right? So he's not going to rust. He's not prone to infection. He is very prone to him. He's a walking wound, basically, that any bacteria can get inside the body at this point. So he's going to need protection. He's also going to need an energy source to feed all the cells, right? So for your protection around your body, you have the integumentary system, right? Your integumentary system, right? It's kind of like a wetsuit. You put it all over your body. It's a waterproof barrier that prevents stuff from coming in and moisture from leaving, and protecting you from stuff like pathogens and stuff like that, right? Covering your entire body. I guess your integumentary system. So muscular, so far, what do we have? Skeletal, muscular, nervous system, endocrine. Now you got your integumentary system. And then the next thing, I want to break here for a second and think about that integumentary system, your skin. You know, part of what makes up your skin is what's called the cutaneous membrane, that covering of your entire body, right? This in purple here is a cell membrane, right? And so for the kind of difference between this cell, the cell membrane, and the cutaneous, you know, both are keeping things inside or out, right? Maintaining this barrier with the outside world. Both have things that in it that is going to be able to recognize stuff, like your skin has receptors in it, right? But other than that, your skin is not really about allowing things to enter or leave, right? It's a barrier, right? You don't get oxygen or nutrients in through your skin like you would a cell membrane does to this organism right here, right? So this plasma membrane, right, is serving a very different function. And this plasma membrane, this cell, remember, is what your body's composed of. So you got cells over here deep inside, you know, you're deep inside your liver, what is it? Deep inside your muscles over here, deep inside your brain, trillions and trillions of cells far away from any oxygen and stuff, like even if this was a plasma membrane right here that can absorb stuff, right? So you got this barrier to the outside world, but you still need to get oxygen. You still need to get nutrients, right? You still need to eliminate waste. So you got to have openings in your body, right? So in this case, we go on to these other systems, right? Here's your nervous system, here's your endocrine, here's your muscular, and here's the integumentary system covering the whole body, right? But you're going to have these openings to the external world to get in oxygen, right? To take in nutrients, and it's going to create a lot of waste. You're going to have a way to get rid of it, right? So instead of like a cell, things going right through the outside, you're going to have certain openings that are going to deal with all your cells of your body, your trillions and trillions of bodies' needs to get oxygen, to get nutrients, right? So this is all these other systems, right? And these are mostly what you're going to be dealing with in Bio 145, right? Your respiratory system to bring in air, right? Your digestive system to bring in nutrients, right? That's going to bring it into the body. You're going to have your cardiovascular system to transport all that oxygen and nutrients around your body, right? To bring this whole network of blood vessels and stuff, and also to bring back waste and stuff that are created, as well as the lymphatic system to kind of deal with other fluid and immune system properties, right? And you're also going to have a way to eliminate waste, right? So you're breathing in oxygen, but you also need to get rid of CO2, right? So your lungs are doing that, helping to get rid of waste. And then your urinary system is getting rid of all the rest of your metabolic waste, right? All your nitrogenous waste and stuff like that, right? So all these systems have opening to the environment in some way, right? As opposed to the cell, which can do everything through the cell membrane. But they're all in the service, right, of what? All your trillions and trillions of body cells, right? And then the last is the reproductive system, which doesn't have anything to do with survival or anything like that. Right? It just has to do with passing on your genes, reproducing, right? Survive and reproduce. This is the reproduce part. So all that stuff, right? When we talk about these systems, integumentary, skeletal, muscular, nervous system, endocrine, this is all what we're going to cover during this system. Right? And then cardiovascular, all these other ones you're going to cover in 145. And again, it's going to get very heavy into the physio part of all that because you're dealing with trying to maintain homeostasis of all your cells. Right? So, this is just a little bit, a couple slides about this, which is in your book. When you're looking at anatomy versus physiology, anatomy is all about the structure, right? Regions of your body, markings, structures, all these different parts, right? For us, just to break it down, we're going to be doing this systemic anatomy. We're going to go over system by system, right? Nervous system, muscular, skeletal system, rather than looking at, say the neck region and looking everything that's in the neck, right? So we'll be doing this systemic anatomy, and we'll also be looking at tissues rather than individual cells under the microscope, right? So this will be the main sort of focus of our anatomy section of this course.
And in the next part, we'll look at it from a more physiological point of view.